Hey guys, it's Mr. M. I want to do a quick video here to talk about League of Legends. I know some people are looking to get into the game, and when they do that, they find it very overwhelming to learn, to talk about, to try to level, and just to try to play efficiently and have fun. As someone who's played a long time, I find it equally overwhelming to try to explain to new players. So what I want to do is do a series of videos in which I kind of chop up the pieces that make up the game and how to play it well, and kind of do a video series. Hopefully I can keep these videos under 10 minutes, but we'll see. I'm going to do my best to do that. In the future I want to do other videos too, but right now I want to focus on kind of the basics of the game. This first video might be a little boring, but I think it's necessary just to get everyone on the same page. I want to talk about using the client, and then I also want to talk about the difference between leveling to level 30, which is the level cap, and being level 30. I want to talk about the different currencies in the game, kind of the different customization you can do, and then lastly I'll go into a game and show you just a couple things that a lot of people overlook. So the first thing you need to do if you want to play League of Legends is, of course, download the client and update it and install it. The other thing you'll need to do is make an account. I'm not going to cover those in this video because that's pretty easy. But once you have it installed and you have an account and you log in, this is the screen that you'll have. You'll either have a screen that looks exactly like this because I'm using the beta client, or you'll have one that has the same functions but just is a little different, and that's the standard not beta client that they're moving away from. Right now I have the beta and I think it's fine. I honestly think the older client is more intuitive to use, but it's kind of splitting hairs, I guess. The first thing that I want to do is just show you how the client works and how to navigate the client. So on the right, of course, we have friends. When you start, you'll probably have no one over here, but as you continue to play, you'll have more people added. You also have clubs that you can join that your friends can be in, which I really haven't found a good use for, but I'm in a couple of them. You can also talk to your friends over here, and there's a mobile app, so a lot of my friends have mobile and you can message them with that. The other thing you'll see is this top bar, which has play, home, profile, collection, loot, store, and then these numbers, which I'll get to. The first thing you want to do when you install the client and you want to learn how to play the game is go to play and then go to training, and you'll want to do the tutorial. And when you're done with the tutorial, do the more advanced battle training. These honestly leave a lot to be desired. And the tutorial, for example, it has you play as the character Ashe, which in League speak is an AD carry who primarily does damage for her team. And they have you build Thornmail on her as an example of building an item. And that's pretty horrible because you would realistically never build Thornmail on Ashe, and you shouldn't build Thornmail on Ashe, and Thornmail in general is a very narrow item to begin with. But in terms of learning how to move and hit minions and use abilities and level up and buy items and do all of those things, the tutorial is pretty helpful. And it also lets you see kind of what the game looks like. I have not done the battle training, but I haven't heard that it really does much more, but I would still recommend doing them both, as you need a place to start. The second thing that I would have you do is pick a champion that you would like to just try out. So before we pick our champion, I'll show you the rest of the options here. So if we go home, we have all the little links that they have. If you go to profile, this is your summoner profile, and this is my name, this is my level, and again 30 is the level cap, and it has little information on my mastery of champions, which you get the more you play, and your rank. If you're a really good player like me, you'll be silver. It also has your match history right here, and then when you get to ranked, you can see the ladder, and then your clubs. If you go over to collection, this will show all the things unique to your account, the things that you own, and the things that you have. These are all the champions I own, as well as the mastery for them. For you, it will probably look something like this, where it shows that you only have the champions with the little I. These are the free-to-play champions, and this is a great way to try out champions and not have to buy them. It also helps you try out new champions, kind of learn how they work, to help you decide if you want to buy them. And I believe that this now changes every time you level up, which is pretty nice. It used to be once per week, and if you played a lot, it would be frustrating to not get newer champions sooner. When you're on this screen and you're trying to decide who to play, it can be somewhat overwhelming because you have no idea what any of these characters do. One thing that I like to tell people when they first start is pick something that catches their eye and just try it out. Don't worry about what you've heard about that character, or if someone says they're bad. When you're leveling, it really does not matter. It's about learning the mechanics of the game and learning the strategy behind playing the game. So here, let's say, for whatever reason, I want to try out Malphite. If I click him, I get a lot of information about him. I get the overview, his primary damage that he does, which is magic damage, as opposed to physical or mixed. It also has his style. I think newer players gravitate toward a more Malphite-like champion, where he is much more on the ability side than the auto attack side. And then it also gives you their difficulty, ranked from 1 to 3, 1 being the easiest. And I also think new players gravitate toward a easier champion to play, just because they already have enough going on, that trying to master a lot of mechanical skills comes through practice and isn't available right away. The other thing it'll do is it'll kind of show you what the champion is made to do. So Malphite's primary function is to apply crowd control for his team, and he also is meant to be tough in that he takes damage. We would call him, as one of the roles, a tank. And I will do a video in the future on all the different roles in the game. You can also click abilities to see all the abilities that Malphite has, and you can read them and see what it is that they do. So if you click on them, it will show what they look like, as well as the numbers behind it and the scaling, which is nice. It also has skins, which aren't super important right now. And then finally, if you're someone who really likes flavor or lore, and they like to have a nice backstory, you can also read this. And the lore is kind of inconsistent, but it's okay. So if you're someone that really likes reading that sort of thing, and you want a character that you can relate to, or however you want to do it, you can also read this to see if you like it. So now that I've decided I really like Malphite, I want to try out Malphite. After looking at his abilities, he looks like a character that I would want to play. I would suggest that you go to play and go to create custom. Summoner's Rift is the primary map that you'll want to use. However, there is Twisted Treeline and Howling Abyss too, but Summoner's Rift is the staple map of the game. You can select your team size if you want. You can play by yourself, team size of 1, and not put a bot on the other side, or you can have team size of 5. It really doesn't matter, depending on what you want to do. When you get in here, it will be empty. And if I wanted to play a mock 5v5 against bots, I certainly could. So I could just hit add bot, add bot, add bot. I can change what champions they are. And then on the other side, I can add bots too. I can also change their difficulty level. When you start, beginner is definitely where you want to start, and then once you start owning up on the computer, switch it to intermediate. This is a great way to learn how to play your character, and honestly, whenever I play a new champion comes out, or it's someone I've never played before, I'll take them into a custom for at least 5-10 minutes and just get used to their abilities. So if I wanted to do this, I would hit lock in, wait for the client to load, and I would be in game. And I will do that toward the end of the video, but I won't do it now. But this is what it looks like. And again, you'll have a lot smaller champion pool than I have, but you have all these options, which I'm going to go over now. Once again, when you start, you don't really know what to do because the game doesn't really tell you what to do. It's just here. The first thing I would have you do is just pick a champion. So we picked Malphite. We went into a custom and we played and we got used to his abilities a little bit. So now we're ready to play a real game and try him out. The next thing I'd have you do is go to play and go to co-op versus AI. And play against computers with other players on your team. And again, you can pick the difficulty level. And this is a good way to get used to the game without feeling that kind of anxiety that comes from playing against another person. It also helps you avoid players that are a lot more experienced than you, kind of beating up on you as you learn the basics of the game. I would really recommend that you do this for a couple of levels so you feel comfortable with your champion and you feel like you don't need to read the abilities or look at guides or anything to help you yet. That being said, when you are ready to go into a real game, you just pick PvP. And the only thing that'll be available for you, and I think you need to be level 3 or 5 or something, will be blind pick. And once you get in there, you will play against real people. So one thing that I didn't go over that I want to talk about that also confuses new players is if when we're in champ select, where I picked Malphite and we have those different slots for runes and masteries and the little pictures of spells, they're not sure what all these do. If you go to your collection, you can open these pages independently and not have a timer up here dictating how long it takes that you look at it. If we go to runes, you'll notice all these slots, if you add them up, equals 30. You get one rune slot per level until level cap. Once you unlock all 30, of them, you can fill them to give your character additional stats. The thing that runes do is each champion in the game has a unique set of base stats, and runes allow you to alter those stats to fit what you want to do with that character. So this is my ability power page with armor and magic resist. It's my standard page I use for a lot of characters that use ability power, but I have a number of pages. A standard page that you'll make will probably look something like this. This is a standard AD page for the most part. It has armor, attack damage, magic resist, and attack speed. And when you hit level 30, you will start making these pages and they will be essential to playing the game. You're at a real disadvantage if you don't use them. Just to explain what the colors mean real quick, marks are red, seals are gold, glyphs are blue, and then quintessences are purple. And they kind of scale in the amount that they give based on marks being the lowest, seals being the second lowest, then glyphs, and then quintessences give a large stat, usually. So we go from less than 1 point of attack damage to 4.5 attack speed with the quints, but we only get 3. Why they're split up this way, I don't know, but usually what ends up happening is some runes are more efficient at certain stats than other ones, and you just kind of look up the optimal page and build it that way. As far as worrying about rune pages as you level, do not worry about them until you're at least level 20. You don't have access to enough, nor do you have the IP to spend, which I'll get to in a moment, to get runes, and you simply don't need them. The other thing that confuses people is masteries. Masteries, your mastery page will look like this, and a blank page will look something like this. Now you'll have how many points you have available. When you start, of course, you'll have 1 point. But again, you get 1 point per level, and you get to fill the tree. The trees can each hold 18 points. So normally what happens is you go 18 in one tree, 12 in another, or you might go 18, 6, and 6, or something along those lines. The reason why it's important to fill the tree is when you get to the bottom, you get different, what we call keystones. And masteries, again, allow you to kind of customize your character and fit whatever you're trying to do with that character. The ferocity tree, for example, offers a lot of combat stats for you to use. It'll give you life steal, it'll give you increased damage, armor penetration, and then your keystone ability will really influence how your character deals damage in the ferocity tree. So death, fire, touch will do damage over time. Fervor of battle will allow you to do more damage the more you attack your opponent within a given time frame. And then Warlord's Bloodlust heals you if you're low health for every attack that you do. The same is true for Cunning and Resolve. Cunning is a much more selective assassin-based tree where you kind of pick your moment and have a little burst of something. And Resolve is a bit more utility for characters that are trying to benefit their team or try to be a little more durable or try to do things that passively help their team. What you pick in here is up to you, but again, it's until you get about level 18 where you can get a keystone, not much of this matters on a grand scale in the game. However, if someone has a keystone and you don't, and someone has runes and you don't, you are at a great disadvantage in the game. This can be a source of frustration for a lot of people because they don't understand why a character can kill them, you know, in 2 hits. When they attack the enemy, they do 1/10 of their health. A lot of it has to do with runes and masteries because they give such a boost to your character. When you're leveling, don't worry about that. If you're getting beat up by someone who's level 30, they have more experience than you, they have access to runes, they have access to masteries, and it's really tough. It's just getting out of kind of the hole that you're put in at level 1 until the mid-20s, until 30. And it can be frustrating when games end up like that. The last thing you'll see here is spells, and these are what we refer to as summoner spells, and you don't have access to all these until level 10. The main one that you will use once you unlock it is Flash, and the other one a lot of people like to use is Ignite. But it varies on situation, and almost all of them get used at some point throughout playing. So the last ability you get is Smite, and this is only used for people that are junglers, which when I get to the video on roles, I'll explain the jungle a lot more. But I would not worry about trying to jungle until you're at least level 20, just because you need masteries, you need runes, and you need Smite in order to jungle. If anything I'm saying, by the way, doesn't make sense, I apologize. Please let me know if I'm kind of saying things out of ignorance, assuming that people know it. But that is really the difficult part, the overwhelming part of explaining the game, is there are so many terms, so much background knowledge needed in the game that Riot, the maker of League, really doesn't let you in on, which is frustrating. And really makes the need for a video like this, I think. So the last couple things I want to talk about are these little numbers up here. Here we have riot points, which we call RP, and then we have influence points, which are called IP. Riot points are points that you purchase with real money. You can spend $20 to get X amount of points, or however much you want to spend, and it allows you to buy things in the game that aren't necessarily needed, but can either be nice to have or kind of effects that make your characters look different. You cannot really pay to win in this game. However, you can pay to get access to more champions. But in the end, you can get every champion by playing the game without spending a penny if you want. Inevitably, what happens is you see other people with skins, and you really want cool skins. But right off the bat, you'll say to yourself, who needs a skin? I don't need one. Trust me, eventually you will want a skin too. The other part is IP, and IP cannot be bought. It can only be earned through playing the game. And you just get, whether you win or lose, you get IP, and you don't get very much, but it does add up over time. And IP can influence how you play the game. For one, IP can be used to buy champions. RP can be used to buy champions too. So if we look at Ivern or Kled, they cost 975 RP, which is pretty expensive, or 6300 IP, which is super expensive for IP. The newer the champion, the more that champion's going to cost. I own a lot of the champions in the game. I think I'm only missing like 30, but I've been playing for a long time. But as you scroll down, or however you sort them, you'll see that they get cheaper. For example, I don't have Urgot, and Urgot is quite a bit cheaper than the other champions because he's been around a long time, over half the cost less than IP. The other thing that you can buy with IP, which is important, is runes. I talked a bit about runes, but until you buy them, you cannot use them. And honestly, the biggest mistake I see people do is spend all of their IP as they're leveling on champions. And they have very little IP left to buy runes. That is bad. You need runes when you're level 30. Other players will have runes. It's essentially giving them an item if they have a rune page and you don't. Which is bad. You want to be on the equal playing field, and you want to have access to those quote-unquote free stats that you get early. Runes are very important for the early game, most importantly. I would suggest having over 20,000 IP saved up for when you hit level 30 or whenever that you want to buy runes. I don't know if they still have the old tiers of runes. They do. Do not buy tier 2 runes. Just save up and buy tier 3, and they can only be used after level 20, but again, you don't need them until your account is level 20 to 30, and once you're level 30, you'll want to have at least 3 pages ready to go. You start the game with 2, so you also want some spare IP to buy an additional rune page if you don't want to spend money, which would be good. I have, I think, 14 rune pages, and I honestly use them all. So, again, I've been playing a long time, and I've bought them over time. But it's very tempting to buy champions with IP, and early on, you want to find your base of champions that you like to play, and kind of play with them until you get the runes you want, the rune pages you want, and so on. Once you have all the runes you want, you can start to gather IP. Like I have almost 15,000 that I just kind of, I'm not doing anything with. And when I want a champion, if a new champion comes out, I'll just buy it if I want it. Once again, and I'll say this a lot, I will make a dedicated video to runes soon, as well as masteries. So if that part's confusing you, just know when you start playing the game to really not worry about runes until level 20 at least. And do not spend IP on tier 2 runes. Only wait to buy tier 3. Okay. The last thing I want to do is talk a little bit about the map and talk about some easy hotkeys that you can use. So I'm going to create a custom like I did before, and I'll do so just by myself. So let's say that I want to try out Malphite again. So I pick Malphite. I can pick whatever I want here for my masteries, my runes, my summoners. I have everything I want. It's good. I lock in. And now we wait. When the load screen pops up here, you will see that it'll show your ping over here. It will show your keystone if you have one. And it will show the summoner spells you have, as well as the champion you are, and then your club. When you have more players, it will have all the players, and you can see this information for everyone, which is helpful. The first thing that you want to do when you're in the game is look at your HUD. On your HUD, you'll see that you start with 500 gold. So you want to access the shop. You can either click this guy's face to open shop, and yours will look something like this. I just have it switched because I like to see more items at once. But this is nice for new players because it explains what they do. I just have it like this because I already know what they all do because I've used them a lot. But anyway, you click, it'll look like this. You can do it by clicking the guy's face. You can click the money. Or the way that I like to do it is you press P. You can access shop even if you're not near the shop. So I can be way out here and hit P and access the shop. But before you leave base, you want to have your starting items. Riot does a decent job doing a basic build path for your character that gives you some options as well as the typical items that would be bought. It also gives you suggested starting items. So we'll go ahead and buy what they suggest. The other thing that you'll see is I have 4 abilities, but I don't have access to any of them yet. If I press the buttons, they do nothing. At level 1, you get 1 ability. We'll just pick one for now, but I'll go into builds in just a few minutes here. So once I have my ability and I have my item, I want to walk to lane. The first thing that people will probably notice is I am moving my camera freely around my character, and then it will snap back to my character. I play this way because this really is the way that you should play. League is a very information-based game, and you need to be able to look around the map and see what's going on anywhere on the map. The game starts with your camera locked like this, and I would immediately suggest that you unlock it. The way that you unlock the map is just hit the button Y on your keyboard, and you are now free to move. And it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it is well worth it. So once you have unlocked your map, you get to lane. Some of the other hotkeys that I want to show you, things that I did not know when I started playing, are this. So if you hit escape, you can go right to the hotkeys, and you can look at what everything does. And again, this is a little overwhelming, but it'll show you all of the keys that you'll use during the game, because the game doesn't do a good job of telling you. For example, P opens the shop, spacebar recenters to your character, tab brings up the score, your creep score, and all the information about your team, as well as turrets and kills and dragons and everything. And finally, the thing that I didn't know about until I was like level 15 was you can hit B to back. Even though right here it says B, recall, I did not know that. I would click that every time. Now, the last couple things are, a lot of people when they start and as they level up, they will mouse over, read this, and then they'll pick one and click it. And really a better way to do that is to bind a key for it. For me, my key binding to level up is shift. I think the game starts it as control, but I switched it to shift just because other games I've played I had key bindings on shift and it was more comfortable for me. It's just the way that I have it. But you want to get in the habit of doing this as soon as possible to make it much easier if you're in a fight mid-level. The other thing that you'll notice is when I use abilities, nothing is popping up for me. It just happens. And when you guys use abilities right away, it will look something like this. Well, that one just happens, but I'll get a little crosshairs. This is frustrating for some players because they want to use the ability as soon as they click it. For example, it's frustrating for me. I would rather just use the ability that I want to use when I want to use it immediately. But some players really like to have the aim to help them. So whatever suits you. I've seen players that are very good players not use Smart Cast. But if you want Smart Cast or Quick Cast, you can come and click the abilities that you want Quick Cast, or just Quick Cast all, and that's what I have. Now, I will go into strategies, laning, getting gold, buying items, build pass, and all that soon, but I won't do that in this video because, again, super overwhelming amount of information. So I want to do one more thing before I end the video, so I'm going to just quit the game. One of the other questions I get a lot are from new players is, what do I buy with my gold, and when do I buy it? Again, the game does not do a good job at telling you when to do this or what to buy. It will show you the suggested items in the shop, but it will rarely tell you why to get them. One thing that I think is very helpful that some people might yell at me about, but I don't care, this is what I use, is I use a website called champion.gg, and basically it looks a little overwhelming, but what you do is whatever character you're going to play, you just type in the search bar. So here I'll type in Malphite, and I'll click it, and I'll get this screen with all these statistics, and again, overwhelming, but if you scroll down, it will show you kind of a baseline of what other people do when they play the game, as well as the number of people that do it. So for example, the most frequent summoner spells for Malphite, over 9,000 games, which is quite a bit, that players use, are Flash and Teleport. The most frequent starter for Malphite is the Corrupting Potion. And then the highest win percentage is this, and you can kind of, it gives you some options. The build shows you what order they built the items from the shop, and again, in a later video I will go into much more depth about how to use items, so this may mean nothing to you, but if you mouse over it you'll see what they do, and I believe if you click on them it will kind of show you the component pieces as well. But this will kind of show you what items to buy and what order to buy them, which is really nice. The other thing it does is it shows you how to level your skills in a efficient order. A lot of people will just kind of level up skills at random, and really what you want to do is maximize one ability at a time. So here on Malphite, you want to max your Q first. You can get 5 points into each of your first 3 abilities and 3 into your ultimate. And your priority is always to max your ultimate every time that you can at level 6, 11, and 16, and then otherwise max your abilities in descending order. So for Malphite it happens to be Q, but for other characters you might max E first, and then Q, and then W, or W, and then E, and then Q, or whatever the thing says. The reason for this is you do the most efficient amount of damage, or whatever you're trying to do, if you level one ability at a time, as opposed to leveling them all equally throughout. The other thing it'll show is masteries, and if you don't have 30 yet, you can kind of build toward the 18 side first, and then after you have the 18 side, do the 18 and build toward the 12 side. And again, we have different options, however here they are exactly the same. But a lot of times they differ, and it's really up to you. And then it also has the rune pages later. It shows you what people like to run their rune page as, and it helps give you a base as to where to start with rune pages. Some people will cry out and say that this is a horrible way to do it because you're not learning, and while I somewhat agree with that, if you don't have time to play this game hours and hours a day and watch streams and read guides and things, I think this is the quickest, most efficient way to see these things. if you're someone that really cares about doing something quote unquote the right way, you are more than welcome to not use these and build whatever you want. But I know some people get a little confused or overwhelmed by all of this, and this is just another guide that helps you. And I think it's pretty easy to use. So once again, it's champion.gg. That's all I have today for the video. I know it was probably a little boring and a lot of this you already knew, but again, I want to start out, especially for someone that's never played the game, to kind of show them these things, and hopefully you learned a little something. The next video I do is going to be on actually playing the game. I'll go over lanes, I'll go over roles in the game, and I'll also go over how to play the early game, like what it means to last hit minions, what it means when people say CS, and how to use gold early in the game, probably the first 10 minutes of a game. If you have any suggestions for the video at all, please be kind. This is my first video, but feel free to make suggestions in the comments, and subscribe and like and all that good stuff, and hopefully I will have about a video a week until the series is done. So I hope everyone has a good day, and I hope to see you on the Rift. Thanks.